everybody in today's age and scenario are relying on scientific evidences. But before we go on to that part, I would want you to tell me what is exactly written in the scriptures, in our Hindu scriptures, what is written about this concept. And then we can probably move on to that scientific part.
Definitely. In fact, I can give an evidence from both our cultural aspect as well as from the modern aspect. Let me give you a small example from the modern side first. In fact, I am a person who never believes just if somebody says. I always go and do a lot of research. If that is proved, only then I used to believe. Then when I started doing research on both the cultural aspect, the ancient science and also the modern science, I was blown away. And that was the time I started believing in this science, in this law actually. So to be very specific, there's a beautiful book called as The Life of Unborn Child, okay, which was authored by Thomas Verney. He gives a lot of examples on how this epigenetic changes happen in the womb. Okay, that's one of the modern science. Okay, then to give a little light on the cultural aspect, we have so many scriptures called as Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita. We have a lot of inputs from many olden scriptures which clearly mentions that how a mother has to live her different months in her pregnancy, right? To be very specific, even before all of this scannings are all were found, our ancient people have so clearly mentioned what is the size of pinda, that is, what is the size of the baby in the womb in different months, what all organs are formed, right? All of these is clearly mentioned in our ancient scriptures. And that's why they have made a special regimen that how a pregnant couple has to live. So this is the specificity that our ancient people have seen within the human life.
Wonderful. You know what? When I first met you, I was actually shooting for a Kerala tourism project at that point of time. And when I met you, I was really intrigued and I was kind of surprised and shocked by this whole profile. Okay, I've met people with health coach, life coach, relationship coach, but what is this Garbh Sanskar coach? And I know this whole concept is very prevalent in South India, but maybe not in North India as much. So I was shooting in Kerala and I discussed the whole thing with my director just randomly. I met this person who's a Garbh Sanskar coach. So he actually told this thing with me. In Kerala, in Thrissur district, there is a temple which comes under the UNESCO World Heritage Site. And that temple is 1600 years old. 1600 साल पुराना वो टेम्पल है. बट बिफोर आई टेल यू अबाउट दैट टेम्पल, जो डॉक्टर्स हैं वो ये बात को जानते हैं और कंफर्म करेंगे कि जो एक्सरे की इन्वेंशन है, एक्सरे इन्वेंशन हुई थी 1895 में.
Yes.
उसके बाद सोनोग्राफी, पेट स्कैन, एमआरआई, ये सब सीटी स्कैन, ये सब चीज़ें आई हैं. बट 1895 में जो बेसिक स्कैन है ऑफ ह्यूमन बॉडी वो एक्सरे था और वो तब इन्वेंट हुआ था. बट हम बात कर रहे हैं 1600 साल पुराने एक मंदिर की, जिसके मंदिर की दीवारों पर इंग्रेव्ड है ये सारी पिक्चर्स जिसकी मैं बात कर रही हूँ. ह्यूमन स्पर्म, ओवम, एंड फर्स्ट वीक, सेकेंड वीक, थर्ड वीक, एवरी वीक वाइज, मंथ वाइज बेबी की क्या फॉर्मेशन होती है, उसके क्या क्या पार्ट्स ग्रो करते हैं और क्या एजुकेशन वो उन पिक्चर्स के थ्रू देना चाहते थे हमारे एंसेस्टर्स. वो 1600 साल पुराना एक मंदिर जिसकी दीवारों पे सब कुछ इनग्रेव्ड है. आई थिंक दिस इज़ अ वेरी ब्यूटिफुल एग्जाम्पल ऑफ स्क्रिप्चर्स ऑल्सो, ऑफ साइंटिफिक एविडेंस ऑल्सो, दैट दिस इज़ एक्चुअली प्रिवेलेंट एंड वी हैव साइंटिफिक एविडेंसेस कि हमें इस प्रोसेस की जानकारी बहुत पहले से थी.
Yes.
एंड आई ऑल्सो लाइक टू हाईलाइट दिस पॉइंट व्हेन पीपल से कि स्क्रिप्चर्स में जो लिखा है वो हम कैसे बिलीव करें. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो स्क्रिप्चर्स में लिखा है वो भी इज़ टोटली बैक्ड बाय साइंटिफिक एविडेंसेस.
Yes.
जो ऋषि मुनियों ने, जो हमारे गुरुओं ने ये सब स्क्रिप्चर्स लिखी हैं, everything that they've written is backed by science.
Definitely, yes.
एंड साइंस प्रॉब्ली वहाँ तक पहुँची नहीं है, क्योंकि मैंने एक बहुत सुंदर एग्जाम्पल पढ़ा था कि हनुमान चालीसा की एक लाइन है, युग सहस्त्र योजन पर भानु, और जब मुझे पता चला कि इस लाइन का एक्चुअल मतलब है कि सन और अर्थ के बीच का जो डिस्टेंस है वो दर्शाया गया है इस लाइन के थ्रू. एंड हनुमान चालीसा वॉज रिटन बाय तुलसीदास जी लाइक thousands and thousands of years ago, और तभी हमें पता चल गया था अर्थ और सन का डिस्टेंस. मगर मॉडर्न साइंस के अकॉर्डिंग अभी बहुत ही few hundred years ago there was the modern scientist who lived in Turkey who actually got to know about the earth and sun ka distance through a telescope.
Yes.
But we also have evidences in our scriptures, in our prayers, कि हमें पता चल गया था. तो आई थिंक दिस इज़ अ वेरी ब्यूटिफुल एग्जाम्पल व्हेन इट कम्स टू कि स्क्रिप्चर्स आर बैक्ड बाय साइंस.
यस.
मुझे पता है 2 साइकोलॉजी के लोग इस पॉडकास्ट को कंज्यूम कर रहे होंगे, जो एक तो सरेंडर कर चुके होंगे कि उनको जानना है, और एक डाउटफुल माइंड से देख रहे होंगे. तो मेरी एज अ पॉडकास्टर ये कोशिश है कि जिनको डाउट है इस कंसेप्ट पे, इस प्रक्रिया पे, इस प्रोसेस पे, मैं वो कैसे मिटा सकूं. एंड यू ऑल्सो मैंशनड अबाउट द बुक ऑफ डॉक्टर थॉमस, द स्टोरी ऑफ एन अनबॉर्न चाइल्ड. दैट इज़ वन ब्यूटिफुल एग्जाम्पल. नेशनल जोग्राफिक पे भी एक शो था, इन द वूम्ब. उन्होंने इस गर्भ संस्कार के ऊपर पूरा रिसर्च किया है. एंड उन्होंने इसके ऊपर एक डॉक्यूमेंट्री बनाई है. फॉर दिस इज़ फॉर द लिसनर्स हु एक्चुअली वुड वांट टू हैव अ साइंटिफिक बैकअप एविडेंस, देन गो अहेड एंड लिसन टू इट.
When we speak about scriptures, I remember another wonderful story, okay, which we know about Bhagavad Gita so much, but we do not know about this Ashtavakra Gita, okay. Ashtavakra is a huge saint. He's a very, very knowledgeable person. When he was in his mother's womb, okay, and even the father and mother of this Ashtavakra were very, very intellectual people. They had a lot of Vedic science and knowledge, which they wanted to give to the next generation. And once, father was chanting a lot of mantras and all of that, and the mother was listening. Even the baby Ashtavakra was also listening to this in the mother's womb. And one day, Ashtavakra's father was chanting, and suddenly he mispronounced one word. Okay, and the little Ashtavakra, who was in mother's womb, wanted to correct his father and tells father, "Oh my dear father, this is not the way you are supposed to pronounce, because each and every syllable in Sanskrita have particular meaning. If you change it this way, maybe this will mean in this way. So please correct this." Then what happens? Ashtavakra is telling all of these things, and father also heard about this. And suddenly father gets a lot of anger from nowhere that how can a very small child who is not yet born even is telling me such a great wisdom I have, and how can such small baby tell me? So he gets angry. And without thinking much, he will give shapa. He will give a curse to the child that you will be born with 8 different deformities. And that's how his name was Ashtavakra. Okay, Ashta is 8 and Vakra is so many deformities. Let me break down this story further, because you can see 2 aspects in this story. One is the positive aspect and the negative aspect of Garbha Sanskara. Why I want to give this perspective here is because without knowingly also whatever we do is going to influence your baby. Like this is like a law. We can't prevent something. If you drop an apple from up, definitely it goes down, right? In the same way, even if you don't want or if you want, this is a law where you can't avoid. So knowingly or unknowingly, everything is going to influence our baby. That's why I want to break this story further, that if you look into, you have 2 perspectives. One is positive and one is negative, right? So Ashtavakra was so intelligent because his father and mother were giving a lot of intellectual knowledge to him, right? But if you look at the negative aspect of the child here, when the father cursed the baby that you will have Ashtavakras in your body, that turned out to be real. Then he was not having all the structures, not the spinal cord, nothing was perfect in his body because of his father's words. Now, I want to tell this story like precisely here because sometimes unknowingly also we might be speaking about something negative, right? Sometimes knowingly we do everything right, but sometimes unknowingly whatever we do may also influence the baby inside. That's why I want to break this story and give this message to everyone, knowingly or unknowingly. Always we have to make our environment more positive.
I mean, this is an amazing story when it comes to being mindful. Even if we are trying our level best to inculcate these values, but we need to be mindful of our environment that we are in right now. Oh, amazing. I never knew of this story because we've always heard of Abhimanyu ki story, Chakravyuh story, but this one is new for me. आप जो कह रहे हो, which is very dreamy, यू नो मुझे ये अचानक से सडन रियलाइजेशन हो रही है दैट दिस द जॉब ऑफ गेटिंग प्रेग्नेंट, द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ गेटिंग प्रेग्नेंट इज़ सो मच हायर देन आई थॉट. मतलब अभी बैठे बैठे मुझे आपसे कॉन्वर्सेशन करते हुए रियलाइज़ हो रहा है कि ओके, दिस इज़ अ वेरी रिस्पॉन्सिबल थिंग. आई एम एक्चुअली क्यूरेटिंग अ लाइफ इनसाइड मी and I am responsible for he or she will become. And it looks very fancy. अगर मैं इसको ऐसे कंपेयर करूँ कि इफ़ एक पेंटर पेंटिंग बनाता है तो वो अच्छी बनी है बुरी बनी है, पेंटर का क्रेडिट जाता है. अगर कोई कुक खाना बना रहा है तो वो स्वाद बना है या नहीं बना है तो वो कुक का उस खाने का जो श्रेय है वो कुक को जाता है, या फिर ख़राब बना है तब भी वो कुक को जाता है. सिमिलरली इफ़ आई एम द क्रिएटर ऑफ अ लाइफ इनसाइड मी, तो वो लाइफ कैसी होगी उसका श्रेय भी मुझे जाता है या फिर एक कपल को जाता है, उसके एनवायरनमेंट को जाता है. एंड दिस लुक्स वेरी फैंसी एंड दिस लुक्स वेरी ड्रीमी टू से कि आई कैन इनकलकेट मेंटल एबिलिटीज़, फिज़िकल एबिलिटीज़. आपने कहा, अच्छा ये भी ट्रू है, कैन वी ऑल्सो इनकलकेट फिज़िकल फीचर्स. ये काफ़ी रेसिस्ट क्वेश्चन होगा कि अगर मेरा हस्बैंड और मैं दोनों काले हैं, बट कुछ लोग इंडिया में, कुछ लोग क्या काफ़ी लोग, दे वांट अ फेयर चाइल्ड. दो आई डोंट वांट दिस टू बी अ क्वेश्चन, बट आई नो कि ये ऑडियंस का बैठे बैठे पॉडकास्ट सुनते सुनते दिमाग में ज़रूर आ रहा होगा कि हम तो ऐसे फीचर्स के इंसान ही नहीं हैं, तो हमारे बच्चे ऐसे कैसे हो जाएंगे. क्या नंबर वन, क्या फिज़िकल फीचर्स भी हम मैनिफेस्ट कर सकते हैं या इनकलकेट कर सकते हैं.
ओके, आई विल गिव यू अ स्ट्राइट अवे आंसर. पहले हमको ये नहीं सोचना है कि हमारा बच्चा काला हो या गोरा हो. पहले हमको ये कलर का तो नहीं रखना है. एंड टू आंसर टू योर क्वेश्चन वेदर वी कैन डू दैट, येस वी कैन डू दैट. बिकॉज इसमें जो गर्भ संस्कार हम करते हैं, दिस इज बॉइलिंग डाउन टू वेरी माइन्यूटेस्ट थिंग एज आई टोल्ड अबाउट एपिजेनेटिक्स. यहाँ पे जो फादर से about 7 or 12 generations of characteristics or genetics are influencing, and from mother side minimum 5 generation of genetics or the features or the character is influenced, right? Through Garbha Sanskara, when we are doing all those beautiful activities, in fact we are going to influence even those genetics which are getting expressed. For say, let me take a small example for this. Suppose in my family there is no one who has curly hair. Okay, right now let's say my father, mother, me, my siblings, nobody has curly hair. Maybe my husband and his 12 generations, anybody could have that curly hair. Okay, or if somebody wants a fair skin tone, if I'm not having, some of my ancestors could have, or my husband's families or some of their ancestors could also have that, right? So while doing this Garbha Sanskara, we can, in fact, we can take the chance of bringing those qualities into our baby by doing certain practices which are very specific.
Okay.
Now, first of all, we should not keep a judgmental aspect in coming to the baby, but if tried properly, so this should be done under the proper guidance. And second important thing is, this is possible. I'll give you a small example. Somebody imagined that they should have a very fair baby. Okay, and both husband and wife were completely Africans. They were completely dark because the girl, no, who was pregnant, and she went through a lot of trauma because of being dark in her childhood, and she kept in her mind that definitely my child should not have the same thing, and even whatever I went through during my childhood, my child should not go through that. That's how she thought. And she started visualizing a person from a very fair thing or something. She started seeing a picture which was kept in her bedroom. Every day she used to wake up and look at that picture, and always she used to pray to the God that even my baby should be like this. And for my surprise, at the end of pregnancy, when she delivered, it was a completely fair baby. And you can go to the Google and check. It is still there that both husband and wife both are completely dark and they have delivered a very, very fair baby. I'm telling this not to tell that everybody can do this or everybody can't do this. And I want to tell this here because anything and everything is possible when a couple, especially when a mother thinks that is 100% possible. If she thinks it, I have to do this. That's all.
I mean, I'm really shocked to know this. It's very difficult to digest. Okay, I just thought, okay, the emotions are transferred through this process. You know, how I'm feeling, what kind of a personality I am, what kind of skill I am inculcating, what I'm listening, what I'm grabbing through all the senses by watching, by listening, by feeling. I might be able to influence my child. But this is surprising to know that I can actually alter physical features of my child. Then I should like probably manifest a child with 6 feet height because I am not.
We have a activity called as creating a vision board for a pregnancy, right? So for that, where we ask them to have a dream baby picture, okay, during pregnancy, and we ask them to visualize on a daily basis. And we ask them to compare their own baby with the dream baby picture. And to my surprise, every time I get surprised that 50 to 70% of the qualities match between the dream baby picture and their original baby.
Oh wow, this thing you are talking about, your community in which you coach this?
Yes.
अगर आप ऐसे ही अपनी नॉलेज को अपग्रेड करना चाहते हैं, मोटिवेट होना चाहते हैं और साथ ही साथ एंटरटेन भी होना चाहते हैं तो हमारे चैनल को होकस फोकस शॉर्ट्स एंड क्लिप्स को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए.